Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm here with my good friend Aidan Walden from Fortinet, and we have been having behind the scenes a fascinating conversation that we're actually going to let you listen in on now. So Aidan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, so we were talking backstage about how devs like myself have absolutely no idea how to make good secure apps, right? Unless we've gotten bit by once or twice, which I have. But in this era of AI, it feels like we've completely forgotten the basics,
Yes.
right? So what are some things that app teams should remember, just from a general point of view, about security?
Well, in terms of what they should remember, that AI is an application. Whether it's a third-party model or it's your model, it's an augmented model, you have to protect that like in any application. And oftentimes, or that's typically an API endpoint.
Right.
And when you talk about the biggest threat to security, exposed APIs, especially in cloud, where they predominate, is a real security risk. And that's something that's very difficult to manage at scale. And so I think that if you look at that as an attack vector, the open API, especially at the risk of your model and your data, that becomes hugely critical.
Right, especially if we're building these apps that have like exponential reach.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, that is what I was super worried about as we're building these AI apps. A dev like myself would have to go seek advice because it's not second nature. It's not obvious how to do this. But I hear you all at Fortinet are trying to make this easier. Can you tell us a little bit about the work you all are doing?
Absolutely. At Fortinet, we've taken a full lifecycle view on security. That starts at the time the application is being factored. And so at Build, we've been talking a lot about source code security, dynamic application testing, providing all of that information that doesn't put additional burden on the application developer, but is a very low level of effort to actually give them a net return time on or investment on their time, so they can work on the things that they need to work on, and security just becomes very natural in the workflow. But then once we minimize the attack surface, Donna, I think it's very important to also take that into the production environment so that application lives and becomes vulnerable, albeit more secure in production, but we want to take what we learn and feed that back upstream to the application developers in a way that is very easy for them to understand, easy for them to iterate.
Yeah.
And then that's where we can link that full life cycle of security. And that's very specific, or that really addresses the problem of that API security need. Because typically, or historically, we've been very loose about how we protect those endpoints because the schema, you don't want to impact user experience, and so we were very loose relative to the schema. But now, using machine learning, we can get very, very narrow on what that security policy is.
I like that because you're talking about how we can think about security at the design phase, but also once you're in production, because we have to keep validating and testing.
Absolutely.
And as we find issues, we can actually design better.
Yes, and the testing essentially is with every user interaction that occurs.
That's exactly it. So it's not just shift left, it's keep an eye on right while shifting left and use that data to shift left.
Absolutely, I like that. I like the way you put that.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some things that devs like myself can be doing as part of just our development process?
I think it's being just having a mindset for security. It's understanding what the attack surface exposure is of your application, which is it's harder to do than it is to say.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where good tooling and good organizational workflow is. Like, we want to really incorporate those different personas into a unified workflow. You have your security practitioners who are not developers, and developers who don't need to spend their time in the security domain so much, but they have to work together.
Right.
And bringing them together into a common workflow where information is presented to each in a very contextual way in the framework that they need to understand it, I think just facilitates a better overall delivery, lower risk, at the least cost.
I love that because you're talking about the old school fusion teams term, which is bring together people from different sorts of disciplines to solve a problem.
Yes.
I love that. So I hear you all have a cool demo tomorrow where you get hands-on with the tools and show us how to use them.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me plug it.
Yeah.
So tomorrow at 9 a.m., we're going to be doing an extended demo on how to secure your application development.
Demo Theater 2?
Absolutely.
Okay, 9 a.m., Demo Theater 2. Devs and security people, go there. Okay, Demo Theater 2. You don't want to miss it. Okay? I'll see you there.